So what is DevOps? What is cloud? As in, why do you have to learn AWS and what is the correlation between them and the so these three things, right? So what is DevOps basically? There are developers where they'll design the code, okay, and then what they'll do is they'll try to give us the code, okay. They'll just give us the code. We'll have to deploy it. So developers, they'll only build the code. Post building the code, it's our job to successfully deploy it through automation, okay. You should not do that manually. So the deployment, end-to-end deployment, not just deployment, end-to-end deployment. So it has a lot of meaning in it. So that's the work of DevOps engineer. Okay. So let's say there is an application, Node.js based application. Okay. So you cannot simply take that application and put them on production servers. You have to first process that. So what are the different stages involved for deploying? First, you will have to take the code, you will have to test it, and then you will have to stage it, and then you'll have to, before testing, you'll have to build the code, and then staging or releasing. You'll get to know all these steps in DevOps. And then you'll have to deploy it on top of servers using containers concept. So every step has to be performed. Let's say you've got the code. What you'll have to do, you'll have to first test it and then you'll have to build it. After building, you'll get the artifacts as in the executable form of code. Okay. And then you'll have to stage it as in storing these artifacts. And then you'll have to deploy it using concept called containers, Dockers and Kubernetes. Okay. So you have to perform all these stages on the code. So each and every stage has to be performed, right? So where do you perform? Let's say testing. Where do you test the code? Normally we should not do in our local laptops. Okay, we have to create a server and then there we'll have to implement all these methodologies. Okay. So for every stage, testing, building, we take an individual server and then we'll perform those operations. So this server, it's not physical, it's virtual. So we'll have to create virtual servers or virtual machines for each and every stage. And then we'll have to connect to that and then we'll have to do a particular process. For example, for testing, take a virtual machine, log in into it, and then you download the code and then you test it. Post the success, upon the success, we'll move to this next stage, building. Okay, create a virtual machine, you log in into it, get the code and then go into it and then you start building it. So every stage you'll have to perform all these steps. So now, where do you create these machines? It's not that not all companies can buy physical servers, right? In order to buy a physical servers, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of man efforts as well, just to install and even to maintain as well. There has to be an individual and networking setup. It's not that easy. Okay, so that's why we will not use physical servers. We'll use virtual servers. So where do you create them? Virtual servers are created on cloud service providers. Okay, on cloud platform, you can say that. So that's where AWS comes into picture. You have many cloud service providers. So not just virtual machines, you can create, we'll have to create uh, databases, we'll have to create storage related services, we'll have to create network related services, NFS, network file system. And then you'll have to create hard disks and you'll have to use monitoring tool for it to monitor continuously once the deployment is done. So there are many services where you have to make use of for end-to-end deployment, okay, in order to have end-to-end deployment. So all these services, you can find them in each and every cloud service provider. So how many cloud service providers do we have in the market? We have AWS, we have Azure, we have GCP, we have Alibaba Cloud, we have DigitalOcean, and what else? IBM, Salesforce, etc. So you have literally hundreds, as in sorry, tens of cloud service providers. You can pick any one of them and then you can start working on it. As AWS is the oldest cloud service provider which is available, full-fledged cloud service, okay, not just half. They are trying to include everything, all kinds of services, not just few services. Okay, so according to that, AWS is the most senior in the market. So it is very well matured to tackle all these cases. So for that reason, people choose AWS. That's it. You can make use of any cloud service provider for performing all these different end-to-end deployment steps. So fine. Now we have got to know what's the relation between DevOps and AWS. Why do you want to go with Linux? So every stage will create a virtual machine, right? Let's say in test you create one virtual machine, and in build one, let's say we go with Windows. So for Windows, you at least need 15 GB. So for test, you'll take one virtual machine, build one, stage one, and deploy. We'll not deploy on just one virtual machine, right? We'll have to deploy it on at least 5 to 10 machines. So totally, let's say 12 virtual machines. Okay. So 12 into 15, 120, 60, it's totally 180 GB. So you're just wasting 180 GB of storage just for deploying. Okay. You're wasting 180 GB on operating system itself. Let's say the code is of just 1 GB or 500 MB. The code will not be of this size, but let us assume. So totally on 12 machines, it comes close to 6 GB. So in order to deploy 6 GB of the code, you are wasting almost 180 GB of your storage, which is not a viable solution because Windows operating system consumes a lot of storage, 15 GB. So for that reason, we'll go with Linux operating system, which just occupies 800 MB into 1.2 GB. Okay, the operating system size. So it's very lightweight. 1.2 GB is far better. So 12 into 1.2, it's 14 GB. So 14 GB is that's okay because you are creating almost 12 virtual machines. For 12, 14 GB is far better. Okay. So that's why we are going with Linux, because in order to perform each and every stage, we need a virtual machine. What kind of virtual machine do we need? We'll have to go with Linux. Until unless we are not comfortable with Linux, we cannot start DevOps. We cannot be comfortable in DevOps, even in AWS as well. So we'll have to know the Linux basics. So for that reason, we'll start with Linux sessions. So that's about the brief intro. Any doubts, guys, so far? Hope you are all clear, right? Can anyone of you give me the confirmation? Any doubts or anything?
Yeah, hi, I have a doubt like we are using Linux only for the sake of this storage, or there
No,
are
no, no.
some.
Many other things. It's not licensed. It's open source. So whereas Windows, it's licensed. You'll have to buy the license, right? So that one and other one securities you can configure them easily in Linux. Okay, they are strong. The firewalls you can set them in Linux easily. And there are many reasons. Yeah, guys. Any other doubts? Fine, then we will continue. So today we'll see how do we create an AWS account, and then so it's a simple creation. Create AWS account. So official site, sign up. So let me open incognito mode and then type. So create your free account. So AWS free tier. What is your free tier? Every cloud service provider by default gives you 12 months of free tier. So under this free tier, you will get to use few of the services, not all, okay? Only few for free. They are giving us these services, few of these services for 12 months for free, so that we can do an experiment on these things and we can get comfortable, and by end of the year we can start working on the product. Okay, so in that way they normally give us free tier so that we can be comfortable. So if you cross the free tier limit, you'll get billed every month. You'll get billed if you cross the free tier, but if you stay under free tier, you'll get 0 rupees. So these are the types of services which are offering 12 months free. Okay, all these services, you have virtual machine for 750 hours you can run per month. Storage 5 GB, RDS 750 hours. So these are the different things where you can make use of under free tier. Okay, so this is your sign up page. It totally has 5 steps. One Yeah, I have already utilized all my accounts. Okay, so what I'll do is .com. Yeah. So this is your first page. It's a simple sign up page. Okay. So give your email ID, password, and then your contact details. Here you go with personal. It's not professional. Only business accounts. Companies will opt for professional because they'll have uh, they'll basically go with plans and all. So for them, business is suitable. Based on that, the packages vary. Okay, ours is personal. And then you're coming to the payment information. Normally, it will not accept debit card. 80% of the time, it only accepts credit card. Few of the it also accepts debit card if they are international at certain scenarios. Okay, but max it will not accept debit card. First, try entering your debit card details. If it accepts, that's fine. It will deduct 2 rupees for verification and then it will credit you back. If it doesn't accept, go with credit card. Okay, this is mandatory. And then mobile verification, post and support plan. We'll go with basic. Companies normally, if you're working for a company, it has AWS account. If it has AWS account, it normally chooses developer or business plan, because if something happens, there has to be a support. If no one is there to back you up, to back the company, then it's impossible for it to survive. If something happens during a lockdown or during an outage, it needs some support. Or if you are struck with something else, then it needs the support. Right? So for that reason, they'll go with developer or a business. We can go with basic plan. We don't want, and then you create your account. That's it. So once you create your account, just type AWS sign in. it will take you to the sign in page. So on top right, once you complete your sign up, it will show you sign in on top right here itself. You can click on sign in. Once you click on sign in, it asks you your email address. Enter your email address and then you give your password. And once you log in, this is how you see it. Okay, so this is how you see. This is your AWS console. On top left, you have something called a services dropdown. These are the different services which are offered by AWS on a rental basis. So make use of these services. Let's say you've used it for 1 hour, you'll pay the bill for 1 hour. If you use it for entire month, you'll have to pay the bill for an entire month. So every month ending, the bill gets generated and then you'll have to pay accordingly. Whatever services you've used for, let's say, 12 hours for an entire month, you'll have to pay only for that 12 hours. So that's the best part for cloud. Okay, any cloud. So we have many services, EC2 service. This particular service, EC2, stands for Elastic Cloud Computing. Using this, we will create virtual machines. So select this. I already have a virtual machine running. So for you, it will not be there. So on top left, you can see EC2 dashboard, extreme left. So you'll have the instances count as 0. Launch new instance. So if you scroll down, you can see launch instance. Click on that. So now we are done with the account setup. Now we are seeing a service called EC2 service, which is used for creating a virtual machine. So once you click on create virtual machine, you'll get to see all these options. You totally have 7 steps for creating a virtual machine. So what is a virtual machine? It's like a physical laptop. Only thing is that it's not physical, it's virtual. That's it. In order to create let's say you want to buy a laptop. What do you do? You first have to choose the operating system, as in, do you want to go with Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. And then configuration, 8 GB RAM, what's the hard disk, etc. So based on that, you will buy a laptop. In a very similar way, here as well, you will have to give the details. What kind of virtual machine do you want? What what are the specifications for it? So you'll have to pass all the options. So in the first step, you'll have to select the operating system. Image is nothing but operating system. You can go with the Mac OS. So you have Mac OS operating system. You can go with the Windows. Or you can go with Linux, which is CentOS. So we'll select this operating system, CentOS. And then second one, type. What is your so your instance type? What kind of instance do you want? What basically this is the specification. So it has T2.micro has 1 virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM. Okay. If you want to go with higher configuration, you'll have to pay, because only T2.micro is eligible under free tier. Other types are not eligible under free tier. Okay. So we'll select T2.micro and then we'll select next. T2.micro is far more sufficient because we are going with Linux, right? You don't have to worry about. So now configure instances, let it be the default, do not touch anything over here. And then next. Yeah, go ahead.
The difference between T2.micro and others, is it the storage or?
No, that's what type. What kind of, let me go previous step. These are instance types as in configuration. Whether do you want to go with 1 GB RAM, one virtual CPU, and 2 GB RAM, or 4 GB RAM, or 16 GB RAM.
Okay.
Based on that, the machine capacity increases. Okay. Difference between what's the difference between gaming laptop and normal laptop? The specs same here as well. Yeah. So now coming to the storage. Storage is hard disk. How much amount of hard disk do you want? Normally, when you buy a physical laptop, you'll go with 1 TB or 500 GB or 256 GB SSD, etc. So here 8 GB is minimum. Okay, you can go up to anywhere, but 8 GB is minimum. So we'll stick with 8 GB. That's it. This you'll leave it as it is. So now click on review and launch. So you'll have to only concentrate on first step and second step. What kind of image do you want? What kind of instance type? That's it. And then click on launch. So this is the important step. Here you have two options. Okay. So for the first time, we'll get this option. Yeah. So whenever you log in into a machine, how do you log in? You'll have to enter username and password. It can be any machine. It can be Windows or it can be Linux or anything. Mac OS, anything. It prompts for username and password only. If they are matched, you are allowed to log in into the machine. Even here as well, you have username and password, and you also have another method. We call it as key pair mode of authentication, which is most secured. Okay, we will not use username and password mode of authentication over here. It is disabled by default. So what is the other type of authentication? Using key pair mode of authentication. So using key pair mode of authentication, basically what it is, it has two files, one public key file and other one private key file. Public key file will be within the AWS. Private key file will be with us. You will have to download it and then you will have to save that. Okay, that particular file. Whenever you try logging into the machine, you have to pass this private key file. It cross checks with the existing public key file which is with the AWS. If they are matched, only then you are allowed to log in. Okay, that's about key pair mode of authentication. So what is key pair mode of authentication? It has public file and private key file, wherein while you try logging into the machine, you will have to pass your private key file. If it matches with the public key file, only then you are allowed to log in. That's it. Now, as by default, you will not have any key pair files, so you create one. Key pair name. Give your name. You can use this key pair for all virtual machines. You don't have to create key pairs as in new key pairs for each and every machine. Just create one key pair. You can use that key pair for all the machines. Okay. So you give name whatever you want, and then you click on download. That's it. It downloads into the download folder. So from next time onwards, you can click on choose an existing key pair. I already have a key pair, so I'll choose this. And then I'll click on launch instance. So this is how you log in into the machine. Sorry, this is how you create a virtual machine. Scroll down, view instances, you will get to see the list of instances. So this is pending state. I'll set a tag for this. Then it is in pending state. It will take at least 2 to 3 minutes for it to be up and running. So any doubts guys so far?
Ramesh, can I know the difference between public and private key pair again?
The public key file is like lock. Private key file is like key. So whenever you lock your door, what do? You lock your door and you will put yourself the key, right? The key will be with you. The lock is the lock. It will be with the door. In the very similar way, that's your public file, and private key file is like your key. You will have to store that private key file. So whenever you pass your private key file, it cross checks with the public key file. It's just the same simple plain file with authentication, okay, with particular signature, wherein only private and public key is able to understand that. We cannot understand it. It will have some encryption. When you pass it, it cross checks with the public key. If both are matched, only then you are allowed to log in. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, hello, sir. So actually, for what server this to run for what purpose this need to run the EC2
Okay. For creating virtual machines.
virtual
Why do
machines?
why do we need virtual machine? We have to practice Linux commands, right? So we cannot buy a laptop just for practicing Linux commands. So for that reason, we are creating a Linux virtual machine.
In this, we have to create
Yeah.
the virtual machines.
In
For
AWS, we are
Ah.
creating a virtual machine, and after creating a virtual machine, we will log in into this virtual machine, and then we'll start practicing our commands.
Till that, we can't even to directly we can't even to do this practice.
I didn't get you.
Yeah, actually, we need to enter in this demo like this one is to experiment. Then we have to use the virtual machine.
Yeah. This is the virtual machine. EC2 service is used for creating virtual machines.
Okay.
So now I have created a virtual machine. I'll log in into it. So copy the public IP address. Click on connect. So here you have your username. What is your username? CentOS. You remember the username. That's it. Now you can use any terminal. It can be Windows terminal. It can be PowerShell. It can be Git Bash, which is a third-party tool, or you can use Putty. Putty normally many people use Putty. Many people use Putty, or I personally prefer Windows terminal, which is very best. So select this. So what is this terminal? Using this terminal, we will connect to our virtual machine. Only for connection, we use this terminal. So what is the syntax? SSH username at public IP address. This is the syntax, okay? So now tell me what's the username, anyone?
CentOS.
Correct, we have just seen that, CentOS. At the rate public IP address, which is over here, over there. We have just copied that and then I'm pasting that, enter. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? Of course, yes. Permission denied. Can anyone take a guess why is it throwing the error? Permission denied.
Authentication.
Correct. So what kind of authentication are we using over here?
Key pair.
So we'll have to pass our
Key pair authentication. Key.
Yeah, what key? What do you call that? Terminology is important.
Authentication key, private key.
Correct, private key.
Private key.
Correct, private key. So this is the same command. We'll have to pass the private key file. So in order to pass the private key file, we'll have to use a flag called I, which stands for identity flag. Okay. I space private key file. So where is my file? Under downloads. So DOW, press tab, it will autofill for you. What is the name of my private key file? 7 a.m. Linux. I just gave that name. If you give your name, it will be downloaded with that name, and then you can enter that name. You press tab, it will autofill for you. Enter. That's it. So now I'm inside the virtual machine. I'm not on my local machine. That's it. If you exit, you will come back to your local machine. That's it. As in, if you log out, you'll come back to your machine, local machine. Okay, that's it. So once you log in, you practice commands. Let's say you are practicing these commands for like 2 hours, 3 hours. Once you're done practicing, you log out and then you terminate the instance. Terminate as in deleting the instance. So this will be deleted. That's it. Select the instance, terminate it. That's it. Now your machine is no more available. You can create again new one. If you want to practice the commands again, you can launch a new one and then you can start you can start using that machine. Once you're done with the work, you can terminate it. Let's say you don't want this machine to be deleted. You just want to use it later point of time. So you can simply stop it. Stopping your machine will shut down. That's it. It will not terminate. Okay, it will be there, but in stopped state. Later you can start it and you can reuse it. But let's say you don't want the machine at all. You're done practicing. You can simply terminate it. For first couple of days, make a habit of terminating it, and then launch it again whenever you need it. Okay, once you're done with your work, you just terminate it.
And when do we use restart the instance?
Restart. Let's say you have installed packages, applications, and it requires restart. Then you'll have to reboot your machine.
How to relaunch that?
Which one? These machines? I didn't understand your question.
Yes, how to relaunch once we terminated, right?
No. Once you terminate, the entire setup is gone. You cannot
Oh.
use this machine again.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So you perform all these tasks, guys. Okay. You create a AWS account. You create a virtual machine inside this, and then you try logging into it through Windows Terminal. It's not available by default. Just type Windows Terminal installation. You'll get that. That is available in Microsoft Store as well. So you install that terminal and then you can use it for logging in. You can also use command prompt and PowerShell as well. Anything is fine, but terminal gives you more features. That's it. Okay. Okay, guys, then. So yeah, that's it from my end. If you have anything else to add, please go ahead, guys.
Ramesh, can you
Yeah,
tell
I
me
think
how to use that username in the
Okay.
terminal?
Select the machine and then you click on connect. Okay, you will get the username.
We use the tab key for
Autofilling.
Okay.
That's it.
I think it won't charge if we terminate, right?
No,
Uh,
it will not be charged.
Yeah. What in case of the stop? If we stop,
No,
it will also be like same, or it
no,
will.
it will not be charged. If you start your machine and if you keep it running for 10 hours, you'll get billed for 10 hours. But we are using T2.micro, which is under free tier. So you'll get 0 rupees. If you use another type of instances, then you will get charged according to that.
Okay. Other than T2.micro, if you use any other thing, it will be
Yeah,
charged.
correct.
But in T2.micro, it won't charge anything. It will be
Yeah,
free. If whatever we do, it will be free.
per month 750 hours. If you keep it running for 750 hours for an entire month, it's okay. If you cross 750 hours, then you again benefit.
Okay.
Okay then. So yeah, guys, you do all these things. If you have any doubts, you can let me know. We'll discuss that. Okay. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Have a nice day, guys.